We're here with CannGroup. CannGroup is a Melbourne-based, vertically integrated medicinal cannabis producer supplying markets in Australia and overseas. It has recently outlined details on the significant commercial progress the business has made while undertaking a capital raising as it pursues near-term growth opportunities. Today's conference is streamed using the Shogun 7, which is a product of ASX-listed tech company Atomos. The Shogun 7 delivers mind-blowing HDR monitoring, recording and playback and seamless multi-camera switching, which you'll see in action in the upcoming webinar. I'll now hand over to CannGroup CEO Peter Crock and COO Shane Duncan. Peter draws on nearly 3 decades experience at global agribusiness New Farm, as he leads the company in helping to shape the future of the medicinal cannabis industry in Australia. He chairs the board of Australia's peak industry body, Medicinal Cannabis Industry Australia, and is well versed in the management of cannabis regulatory framework in Australia and abroad. Shane, meanwhile, has more than 20 years experience in over-the-counter, medical device and pharmaceutical marketing, sales and medical communications. Prior to joining Cann in 2018, he held sales, marketing and business development roles in the US. Over to you both, Peter and Shane.
Thanks very much, Laura. I'll take the disclaimer as read and welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today. We move into this next stage of growth for CannGroup with strong momentum. We've just been through and had a successful $14.3 million placement, and the SPP for that process share purchase plan is underway at the moment. We move into this next stage of growth for Cann with strong momentum and confidence. We have a more diversified customer base. We have secured access to important overseas markets. We are executing strongly on our strategy to be a leading business-to-business supplier of medicinal cannabis, and we are projecting meaningful revenues for the current financial year. Those revenues put us on a secure financial footing to grow the business as planned. There is no doubt COVID-19 has hampered our ability to progress the Mildura facility construction, both in terms of travel restrictions on key overseas-based specialist contractors, but also financially in terms of progressing negotiations on external funding options. I want to make it clear though that the Mildura expansion project is still core to our growth plan. And I think it's worth noting that the importance of the Mildura project has recently been recognised by the state government with their announcement of a $2 million regional development grant to assist with construction. Our strategy of consolidating market leadership in the medicinal cannabis industry in Australia is firmly on track. We have built strong technical capabilities both internally and via value-adding partnerships. And we've demonstrated an ability to commercialise GMP standard products that are now generating interest from supply customers in Australia and around the world. I'll now step through our strategy and plans in more detail. Our recent success in securing new contracts and attracting more industry attention is a clear reflection of the strength and value of Cann's integrated business model. As other industry players try to select those parts of the value chain where they can effectively compete, our strategy has been to establish strong capabilities across the full value chain. From this, we are seeing more opportunities present, and it is a clear differentiator between Cann and our competitors. We believe there is a strong competitive advantage in owning cultivation assets and leveraging that asset base to secure business-to-business contracts that can contribute to a stable and growing revenue stream. Our integrated model ensures that we can participate in and control the key activities that drive quality, innovation and value in the medicinal cannabis sector. And it allows us to pursue the maximum margins the industry has to offer. The industry continues to develop and mature, both domestic and international demand remaining strong. In Australia, acceptance of and desire for medicinal cannabis continues to grow. Current demand requires an estimated 7,300 kilos of dried flower, and that demand is forecast to grow to 40,000 kilos within the next 4 to 5 years. In terms of industry structure, we have seen more Australian industry players move to an asset-light model, which continues to open up opportunities for Cann and supports our B2B strategy. Globally, the demand is also strong. With new markets opening and established markets continuing to grow, we see very strong export potential for our GMP certified products, particularly in Europe, where local production is not meeting that growth in demand. An oversupply of recreational cannabis continues to impact the North American market, and this may take some time to work through and put demand-supply dynamics back into balance. We will continue to monitor that situation closely, and of course, we have our offtake agreements in place with Aurora Cannabis, but opportunities elsewhere continue to develop, and this is reflected in recent supplier contracts we have secured and incoming inquiries for our products from other overseas markets. The past 6 months have seen significant progress as we continue to execute on our growth strategy. Our 4 main pillars of growth are centred around supply agreements, product development, the Mildura expansion and strategic M&A. I'll now hand over to Shane Duncan, our Chief Operating Officer, to step through those 4 pillars in more detail. Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Peter. Hi, everyone. I'll now expand a little bit on what we believe will drive our business over the next few years. As Peter mentioned, we've secured new important supply agreements both here in Australia and also overseas. And this really reflects the work we've been doing over a number of years now to build our reputation and establish our business, but also our ability to produce GMP quality products in a range of formulations. That GMP capability puts us in a great position to offer products that can meet the strict international standards for medicinal cannabis, opening up new markets, which is the supply agreements we've just executed, but also attracting new customers in these major medicinal cannabis markets around the world. We've got a number of contracts that are still under negotiation and finalisation, and we hope to be announcing those in the coming months. We continue to strengthen our product pipeline. Differentiation is a key pillar of our growth strategy, and as it is for any business. It's partially led by a world-class genetics program where we're looking at isolating specific strains or identifying and isolating specific strains that can go through to targeted treatments for different conditions. At the same time, we've got a product development program, so improving the way medicinal cannabis is delivered to patients. And we're working with the Monash Medicines Innovation Centre around a range of new formulations, which we hope to see the first candidates of those later this year. As Peter mentioned, the Mildura expansion is still critical to our growth strategy. You know, the benefits of having world-leading cultivation, production efficiencies, and that greater scale, which really does propel our growth. We believe the M&A field will be quite active over the next few years. We've got a watching brief on a number of opportunities. We think there'll be some industry consolidation, some product assets become available, and we'll look at those and how they potentially add to our growth strategy and drive the business forward. When you look at medicinal cannabis through the lens of the countries around the world who have approved a medicinal cannabis program, we're pleased to be able to demonstrate that we now have contracts and supply agreements in place with nearly all those major markets who have a medicinal cannabis program. Across the 7 existing contracts and the new contracts we're looking at, we believe we'll be opening up new markets like Poland and France and parts of South America, as well as additional contracts in Germany, which again underpin our growth objectives and provide us with great, a great perspective on what the future looks like in terms of growing the business. We move to our revenue forecasts, and this is a mix of contracts that we've already executed, plus contracts that we've got under negotiation. The sales estimates on the slide here are provided by our customers, and essentially what we've done is taken a realistic view of the contracts that we have in place and also those being negotiated, and we conservatively estimate that our financial year 21 revenue will be 15 million. Those sales will take a range of different product forms, from bulk dried flower through to finished products like oil in a bottle. It's important to note that those forecasts don't include any sales at this stage to Aurora Cannabis. So I touched on the product range. We're now building that product range out and the scale at which we're manufacturing that. So from some finished oil products to bulk extract to final dose dried flower and bulk dried flower. We've now got a range of products that we're manufacturing at scale that can be supplied to those supply partners that we've currently got in place. Importantly, our manufacturing agreement with IDT Australia provides us with those formulations and ensures that they are manufactured to the global GMP standard which those major medicinal cannabis markets are looking for. We've also commenced large-scale production of a number of products, and some of those are now making their way to Australian patients via the Australian Government's Special Access Scheme. As Peter mentioned, our third pillar of growth is Mildura. We have existing cultivation facilities that can provide us with the biomass and the starting material to push into production to hit our 15 million revenue guidance. We can supplement that with imported biomass from Aurora. But the Mildura facility really remains really critical to us because it provides that step change in terms of efficiency and cultivation and production at scale. That'll all translate to lower cost of production, improving our margins and ensuring that we remain globally competitive as we push the business forward over the next few years. But before I hand back to Peter, we've just produced a small video which shows you the progress that we've made at Mildura, but also gives you a bit of an insight into the existing cultivation facilities.
Thanks, Shane. As we've already noted, the timing of the Mildura expansion has been impacted by COVID-19, both in terms of the ability to bring international construction and technology experts and also in relation to the general lending environment. The company continues to evaluate all funding options for Mildura, and we remain engaged with major bank lenders in relation to a potential debt facility. Non-debt funding alternatives will also remain in consideration. While clarifying the funding position on Mildura is taking longer than we anticipated, we believe the growth we can generate via our existing and potential new supply agreements materially de-risks those expansion plans and strengthens the business case for Mildura. As you can see from this presentation, we have made strong progress towards building a growing and sustainable revenue base and consolidating our industry leadership position here in Australia. As these revenues come through, we will be in an excellent position to fund and finalise the next stage of growth at Mildura. While we're not in a position to give you clarity on the timing and funding structure of Mildura today, we firmly believe that the business case for proceeding with that project continues to strengthen, and as it does so, appropriate funding options will materialise. The placement we've completed and ongoing SPP will give us the capital to have us fully funded from a working capital perspective over the next 12 months. I'm confident it's going to be a very positive period of growth for the company. I'll now hand back to Laura for any questions.
There is a lot of competition as well in the medicinal cannabis market, and to have success, it seems, in this area, you need to have low-cost production and really good distribution. So there has been a lot of discussion regarding consolidation in the industry over the past couple of years now. How do you see this playing out in the near future, medium term?
Well, we've already seen a number of players who have announced they're moving to an asset-light model where they're focusing on parts of the supply chain and the opportunity with medicinal cannabis. As that eventuates, so it's going to be interesting to see whether there are opportunities to bring some of those assets together. The important thing is that patient access is improving and the demand for medicinal cannabis is strong. So that's going to see us hopefully bring forward a consolidated industry that's focused on delivering for patients.
Why do you think Australia is well positioned to be a player in this space, given the operations setting up overseas? I mean, clearly we're quite far away from everything, and that has to hurt at some point in the supply chain.
The Australian environment, we're legislated and have to respond to the TGA, so GMP requirements in Australia put us in a leading world position in terms of the product that's being produced for patients. So the opportunity here is that Australia gives us an excellent foundation to work from, and our product is sought after in other parts of the world where GMP pharmaceutical grade product is expected, and that's exactly what Australia is producing.
Are there any big industry trends or changes that you've seen pop up lately, even in the industry, that are worth noting for investors looking into the sector right now?
I think one of the critical parts of the industry evolution is into more targeted treatments, and also the evidence that supports those treatments. So we touched on our product development program. Is the medicine's not easy for doctors to prescribe or for patients to take at the moment. So I think one of the real transformational steps, and there's lots of projects and lots of companies looking at this, is really around how do you create better medicines that are easier for doctors to prescribe with confidence, and it's certainly much easier for patients to take.
Thanks very much, Peter and Shane. Up next at 10:50, we have the company that is bringing and enabling the engaging high quality stream that you're seeing today. That's Atomos. Stay tuned, head to the website to register for the session, or you can always click the link that's popped up in your chat box.